Hey guys, today I want to talk to you about a foreigner's medical emergency and the reality of the billing system here in the Philippines. A lot of people misunderstand how it works here. They think they can go to the hospital, get taken care of, and they'll get a promissory note and they'll sign that promissory note and everything is good. That is not how it works here in the Philippines, especially private hospitals. When you're talking St. Luke's, Silliman, Ace Hospital, these are private hospitals. They're not a public hospital or a government hospital. They'll take care of anybody who cannot afford medical service. At the private hospital, you either need to have some cash, credit cards, own some land, you have an insurance policy, an HMO or some kind of PhilHealth insurance that's going to cover the procedures that you're going to have done. You can't go in there and just get all this work done for free. When I went into the hospital, and this is just for testing, I would go see the doctor. The doctor would tell me what test they want run. I would go down to the billing department, pay for it in advance, and then schedule the testing. I would take the receipt. I would go to the department that was going to do the test, showed them the receipt that it was paid for. They would schedule my appointment and do the test. You need to, be financially responsible for the work that's done. And these private hospitals want the money up front. They don't trust anybody, which they shouldn't. But there are some protections for you. There is Republic Act 10932, the Anti-Hospital Deposit Law. Now this covers emergency rooms. If you get wheeled in an ambulance or somebody drives you down to the hospital having a heart attack or something bad, they have to stabilize you. They have to take care of you in the emergency room. Before the administration comes down, the billing department comes down and demands any kind of payment. They have to stabilize you. And if say you're having a heart attack and they give you anti-clotting medication and oxygen and they stabilize you, then the billing department comes. You're going to need a deposit, proof of insurance that they accept, and you can go in. But once they stabilize you, even if it's for 5 or 10 minutes, and they see that you're unable to pay, they will transfer you from these private hospitals to a public or government hospital that takes care of people who cannot afford to pay for the services. Then you'll be taken care of. But we really don't want to be going to these public hospitals. We want to be taken care of in a private hospital. So where does this promissory note come into effect in a private hospital? Well, if you go into the emergency room and they cannot stabilize you and you need something done right now or you're going to die, they have to wheel you up, to the operating room. They have to do that. They have to get you to the point that you're stabilized. The billing department is going to come in and demand some sort of deposit or payment. Now, as you recover, now remember, you haven't paid a bill yet or done anything. This is from the emergency room to the operating room. Now you're in recovery. In recovery, you're in a private ICU. Stipulation in the law for private rooms that you have to pay for a private room before they can discharge you. Now we're going to go ahead and talk about Republic Act 9439, the Anti-Hospital Detention Law. Hospitals, they cannot hold you hostage. They cannot, keep you tied up to a bed. That is against the law. But if you owe them money, you're going to have to come up with some sort of resolution to this. And if you've been in a private room, and I'm talking about the ICU or some sort of private room, they do not have to release you until you've come up to an agreement on how you're going to pay that. And this is where that promissory note comes in. You're a foreigner, you got sent into an emergency room, they couldn't stabilize you, you had to have an immediate operation, then they put you in ICU to recover. Now that they stabilized you, they want payment. If you can't make payment, they can discharge you. but you still have to make some sort of attempt or something to pay them. And that would be with a promissory note. And a promissory note could be a second party signs it, a co-signer. Could be if you have property. But if you don't have anything, you're just on a tourist visa here, they're going to take your passport. They're not going to keep it, but they're going to report you to the Bureau of Immigration and put a hold on you until you pay your hospital bill, that you can't leave the country until then. They'll do everything in their power to collect their money. They don't want people coming here, getting medical service done, going down to the airport, getting on a plane, and leaving the country. Private hospitals will demand payment up front. So if you know you need stents put in, you're bad, you've talked to your doctor, he said, you need to go into the hospital and have some stents or some work done to you. Maybe it's something else, some other kind of operation, back surgery or something. Those you're going to have to pay for in advance. You're going to have to pay a deposit. And they won't schedule you. They just won't let you into the hospital unless you've made some sort of arrangements for payment. Now, you can go to a public hospital. And again, why does somebody want to go to a provincial public hospital or go to a government hospital? And that are for the less fortunate, people who cannot afford medical care. You're going to get a lower quality medical care. You're not going to get, St. Luke's. You're not going to get Silliman or some other good hospitals here in the Philippines. You're going to be on the low end. So if you're going to stay here, you have to think about the future that this might happen. I have already thought about that. I have talked to my doctor about the cost of any stents that I may need or something. And the number that I've come up with as a solid number is 2 million pesos. Have that in a savings account, have the passbook as proof that you have the money. You have the debit card. They can run and get your balance at the machine. There's many ways that you can guarantee payment at the hospital if you need some sort of surgery done. You need to prepare for this. And if you're going to be here without health insurance, and I'm not here going to advocate having health insurance or not having health insurance, having a plan, to pay for it one way or the other, or be on Medicare, Part B, Part A, go to Guam. That's always a great option. But sometimes these medical conditions you get into will not allow you to travel to Guam. So you need plan A, plan B, plan C. A lot of guys use going back to the States for the Medicare as plan A. Well, let's hope it's not so bad of a situation that you cannot get on an airplane. So plan A is gone. Plan B, I'm going to, just be self-insured here. Well, if you're going to be self-insured, you need to have something. And the younger you are, I believe, the less money you need. If you get in a motorcycle accident and you break a leg or you break a shoulder bone, these things are not that expensive. You can take care of that yourself. You can self-insure for those. It's the catastrophic illnesses that we get, things that are happening inside our body that we don't know about yet. Cancer that's developing, or you got to go on dialysis for a while. Do you have the money to cover this stuff? Do you have the money to get into the hospital? Do you know how much money you need? When you see the doctor and the doctor tells you, you have diabetes or you're going to need dialysis, ask them, what do you think it costs? How much money should I have set aside for this? They have an idea of what it costs. My doctor did. I talked to 2 lawyers. I talked to my doctor, and I talked to, briefly, someone in billing at Silliman. Nothing on the record, anything, but they said you have to pay for your services in a private hospital. And when you come to the emergency room, this is just me talking here, they're going to do the least amount of work possible to stabilize you. And once you're stabilized for 5 or 10 minutes, the billing department, they're going to want to secure a deposit for services. And if you can't provide that, they're just going to send you down to the provincial hospital. the public hospital, the government hospital, somewhere with less care. They're just going to sweep you away. Yeah, they had to take care of your emergency room. They're going to give you a bill, but they can't hold you to pay that. That's where you can sign the promissory note, and then they'll send you to another hospital. Emergency room's not that expensive. When I went in there for my arm, I had a bad infection in my arm, but every step of the way, I went into the ER. I sat down with a nurse. She took my blood pressure. She looked at the wound. She saw I wasn't dying. And then the next step was to go see a doctor. Well, I had to go pay for the doctor visit in advance. Once I saw the doctor told me what medication I needed, for a tetanus shot and some other antibiotics. She gave me a list to go to the pharmacy and buy these things, and I had to go buy them. And once I had them purchased, she wanted a blood test. I had to go and stop at billing, pay for the blood test, go and get the blood drawn so they could do the blood test, take the medication that I bought at the pharmacy back to the doctor. Then they injected what had to be done. They treated me, they treated the wound, and then I had to come back the next day for the results of the blood test. Every step of the way, I was paying in advance, except for that initial walk into the emergency room, where they took a look at me and determined, it was like triage, what has to be done next. Thank God, I've never been in a situation that a lot of people are getting to fall into as they get older, that situation where they're in the ambulance, going down to the emergency room, and they don't know what to do. You have to plan ahead of time for this moment in time. How do I prepare for it? I'll tell you. I'm an open book. I tell everybody how I prepare for this. I have told 4 people where my passbook is. I have told 4 people where the debit card just to that passbook is. And if you have to go to the hospital, they know where to go get it. I've made plans for this, but I do not have a plan at the hospital. I haven't gone to the hospital in advance, given them money for just in case. That's something I'm not going to do. But you have to think about, where are you going to get this money? What if it's the midnight ride to the hospital and the ATM's out of cash? The hospital's going to understand the ATM's out of cash, but they'll be able to check your balance. If you have a passbook, they'll see your balance in the passbook. It's available if you have some sort of health insurance. I have PhilHealth, which is not much, but PhilHealth knocks 25% off my hospital bill. So the hospital is already getting a little bit of money. So the amount of money I need at the time won't be as great. Now, PhilHealth, I hope I never use it. I've had it for 3 years now. I haven't used it one time. If you have pre-existing conditions, you're not going to get good health insurance here. They'll cover everything but what's wrong with you. And what's the use of that? That's just a waste of money. A lot of times we come here, we just cross our fingers and we hope for the best. That's what I'm doing. I've talked to one guy who was in the public hospital. He owed that hospital 1 million pesos for dialysis work. And he wanted me to help him, do a fundraiser. And then I don't do that. I don't know the guy. I reached out to his family. He eventually got out of the hospital. But then he passed like a week later because the care isn't that great in the public hospitals. It's just what people have to use here. If you want top-notch care, you want the St. Luke's. If you're in Dumaguete, you want the Silliman or the Ace Hospital. You have to pay for that. People coming here to the Philippines, the medical care should not surprise you. This is the one thing you should be so well aware. It's the one big topic everybody talks about. Healthcare in the Philippines. Some call it subpar. It is subpar in some places compared to what you're used to. But you have to pay for it, either through insurance or through cash. It's a sticky subject, medical care. A lot of men have died. A lot of people have died because they didn't have the ability to pay for the insurance or pay the hospital bill. Be well aware of that. Until next time.